Hi, so good evening and welcome to Leadership Styles. And in this live video, we're just going to give you an idea about the different leadership styles, when to use them, how to use them. And throughout the live session, we're going to be looking at examples of this. And I've got some questions from people who have asked them in the group forum on the community page at brightthink.co. Now, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. If you're watching this live or if you are watching this pre-recorded as part of a session which I put together for you, hopefully this session will give you the ideas and the knowledge that you need to be able to sort of drive the leadership forward and to be able for you to understand a little bit more about the different theories behind leadership. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to be looking at some of the key areas of leadership, including transformational, transactional leadership. We're going to be looking at the importance of a transcultural leader and what that is, alongside autocratic, charismatic, persuasive, perceptive. So there's quite a lot that we're going to get through. Promise I'm going to keep this session nice and short for you. And again, I've got some questions which have already been asked, which I'm going to ask through the course of the session as well. So first of all, let's get things going. Now, you've got a couple of different styles of leadership to start with. If you are looking at the leadership and management course on brightthink.co, then these are the two sessions that we start with. We're going to look at transformational leadership versus transactional leadership and what is the key importance of those. Well, first of all, you've got transformational leadership. Now, if you're a transformational leader, typically you're going to have skills and styles which are going to be a lot more coaching and developing of the team. So imagine it's that sort of connection that you're going to have where you're going to develop it and control them. You know, you're going to understand what they want and be able to grow that person inside the company. Now, that's very different to more of a transactional style of leadership. Now, if you're going to look at this style of leadership, this is where you'd probably fit it in more with a management point of view. A transactional leader is someone who's looking more at the specific targets and the development areas. You know, they're more statistical, they're more quantitative. So you've got like the complete opposite ends of the spectrum there, where you've got this transformational and this transactional. Now, even though these are the two main ones which we're going to start off with, they're not them all. Now, very often in your career, if you're currently a manager or if you are going to be a manager, you're going to slip into these two different situations in different styles. You know, a daily element of the office might enable you to be more transformational. You're going to be getting the best out of the person, growing their talent, their skills, their abilities. But then at times, you're going to be tracking their performance and you're going to be growing more transactionally. You know, you're going to be understanding more about what they want, what drives them forward. And they're the key differences between the two different elements. So understanding when and how you're going to use them is often key as a leader. Now, alongside that, one of the other main leadership types, which I research on my own, is transcultural leadership. Now, if you've never come across this before, it's basically getting the best out of the cultures that work for you in an organization. Now, not necessarily that work for you in a bricks and mortar style business. You know, you may have a remote team which are working all over the world. And for that, it's about understanding the different views and the different perceptives. Now, there's a couple of great examples of who are the best transcultural leaders. And this is a lady called Indra Nooyi. She was once the CEO of Pepsi Cola. She kind of turned the company around when it needed a bit more uphill, a bit more liveliness, you know, and managed to develop the company with her transcultural leadership skills and grow it into new markets, as well as fundamentally understanding the purpose of what transcultural leadership was and how it was going to drive the company forward. You know, when you think about it, if you're from a certain background or a certain culture, you're going to think of things so much differently to what I think of it as. You're going to view things in a different way. You're going to have a different answer, a different way of solving the problem. Now, if you work in an organization where you've got people from multinational countries or backgrounds, then that's amazing for being a transcultural leadership. What you need to be able to do is to drive the information that all these key people are bringing and put it into your own credibility. That's the key thing there. Now, Google Indra Nooyi, and as well as that, a guy called Carlos Gulch. Now, he was once the CEO of Renault Nissan, popular car company, very French orientated. He grew the company and took it into more of the Japanese market. Now, for that, he needed to understand a lot more about the transcultural differences between the French and the Japanese, which are very different, very different styles of working, different ethics, not just internally in the company, but also externally as well. The customer's buying behavior is so much more different. Now, he had great transcultural leadership skills because he was able to adapt his leadership style, not just for the internal people in the organization, but also for external customers who are going to buy their key products. So again, a great thing to look forward to in that transcultural leader. Now, go and research those two, because if you are looking at one of the key leadership styles, which I personally think is going to benefit you a lot more in your business and organization, then transcultural leadership is one of the prime elements that you need to be able to think of. Now, like I said, that transcultural leadership is going to have different elements of the transactional and the transformational in there. But the key thing, the key components of having a good transcultural leader are going to be more about the development of people's mindsets, understanding those ethical backgrounds, growing the business into new market with the power of understanding the different cultures that might happen from it. Now, there is a whole section within our learning catalog on brightthink.co if you do want to check that out. If you are looking at this video as a new user, or if you're already a learner on the site looking to develop some specific leadership skills. Now, let's have a look at some of the questions which are coming in from some of the learners who are already on the BrightThink community page. Now, first of all, as a leader in an organization, what's going to help me increase the revenues? Now, that's from Sandra. She's already a BrightThink member. Well, interestingly, in order to increase revenue and turnover as a leader in the organization, you need to have a couple of different styles of leadership. Now, there's some which I've not spoken to you about already. However, I personally believe if you're going to have that transcultural leadership skills, then it's something that is going to help you increase the revenue, not in a way in which you're going to increase sales directly, but what's going to happen is you're going to change the culture of the organization, the way people are more motivated, and then it helps them grow their knowledge, stay motivated. Having an increased cultural background or the ability to grow in different markets also increases productivity, because you're getting a lot more knowledge. And like I said at the start, you're getting a lot more different perceptions of people's thoughts. So yeah, that's going to answer your question around one area. Now, Sandra, I'm going to come back to that later on when we also look at some other areas and different styles of leadership. Now, I've told you about three fundamental ones, so stay with me on this one. We've talked about transformational, transactional, and transcultural. Now, we're going to look at the difference between two more, so make sure you write these down. These are autocratic versus charismatic leaders. Now, autocratic leaders, some would say, are they a leader? Are they not? Because they do slip more into that management role. An autocratic leader is someone who's a little bit more rigid. They're more following the rules. They're very structured. An autocratic leader is someone who often makes the decisions in their own accord and doesn't ask the opinions of the team. Now, that's very different to what we just explained earlier on with the transformational and transcultural styles. If you're an autocratic leader, it's often seen as a negative thing, because as a leader, you should be sort of embracing the different people and their skills in the organization. Some people would say it really isn't a leadership style. It's a lot more managerial. At the same time, it does have a few pros to it as well. If you're more of an autocratic leader, you're someone who's focused, if you're very strongly wanting to make that decision, Don't let people think that's always a negative thing, because as an autocratic leader, you're very strong, structured to the point. It's a key skill that you should have. However, you shouldn't always use it. There are going to be times where you need to bring in more other styles of leadership, let's just say. And for that one, you could bring in more of the charismatic styles of leadership. Now, totally different to that autocratic. So charismatic leadership. This is someone who is listening. Their listening skills are on point. They have a lot more compassion. They have a lot more substance. You know, they're the complete opposite to autocratic, which is why I put it into that formula. Now, if you're thinking already, wow, he's already gone through 5 different leadership types, how many are there? You know, there's always theories and models around business leadership and management. You yourself are your own natural holistic leader. The reason why I'm telling you this, it's understandable, and it's great for you to understand what skills you have as a leader right now and how the theories behind it work. It's also good for you to understand as and when you might slip into different leadership roles. So think as that charismatic person. You know, you all have that friend in society who's a lot more charismatic in their persona. And that's really what it's about, you know, bringing that compassion. That's going to draw people into you as a leader. And when we look back at some of the questions which you're asking on the community group, like Sandra asked about the revenues, that's a key thing. What's the best way to connect with the team? This came from Ido, who's a member of the Brighton community all the way in Tel Aviv. So hi, Tel Aviv, if you're watching this evening or whenever. Okay, so what's the best way to connect with a team? Well, a charismatic leadership definitely is. You know, if you want to connect with your team to build their trust, to grow high transparency, then having charismatic leadership skills and having more substance, style, they're all going to help you to drive the company more forward. It's all about being listening, being a proactive listener. Now, you could be listening and hearing. There's differences in that, by the way. Hearing is you're just absorbing the information. Listening is when you're actively listening and taking part. And that's what makes a good leader. So for Ido on the Brighton community page, if you're asking that specific question on how you connect with the team, look more into researching charismatic leadership styles, okay? It's quite an interesting one to pay a little bit more attention to. Now, we're just going to go through 2 more different leadership styles in this session because the specific ones we're going to mention more. You have perceptive leaders. Now, I'm really into this because I think you could be a perceptive leader and you can be other leadership types at the same time. A perceptive leader, their key skills and abilities are about having focus. Okay, I know we saw that earlier on in the autocratic, but it's still a little bit different. They're going to have strategic thinking. Now, you've heard of having a good strategic plan or strategy. Strategic thinking is something different. I think all leaders need to have very strong strategic thinking skills. A strategic thinker is someone who is able to analyze results and make a new route or a new path to bring it forward. A strategic thinker is someone who is always learning and evolving themselves. Is always looking for new trends and new patterns, not just in products, but with how the team evolves and develops as well. And that's one of the key characteristics of being a perceptive leader. As well as that, it's about having focus, it's about having empathy with the team, and it's about having optimism. So you could say for Ido and Sandra, who we answered the previous question, perceptive leader is a good way of also building connection with the team and also having a leadership style which is going to drive the company revenue and profits more forward. So start to think about that. Now, persuasive leaders, this is where it gets really interesting. I think generally if you're a good manager in a business environment, because remember you can have managers and leaders in completely different industries. However, if you're a leader in a business environment, having persuasive leadership skills is often going to drive you forward in areas such as negotiation or getting new business. It's also going to drive you forward with connecting to the team more. So this is another one about connecting to the team. So again, make sure you're writing these down. A persuasive leader is someone who has, first of all, an emotional connection with the person. Okay, you have these ineffective leaders in a lot of organizations who fail to connect to the team, and therefore they fail to build up that trust and transparency, which is really bad at the end of the day. You know, you want to be able to grow it in different ways. They're also able to tell a story, and they know who their audience is. Persuasive people, you could say very often they're good salespeople, you know, building the story, making the emotional connection. You know, you get something like a cold call or a cold email, they're not just selling you something. Very often it's painting these flowery pictures and words. They're telling a story to you, to how you want it and why you want it. So if you want to embed that in a leadership format, being a persuasive leader, you're able to tell the story on how you want it, how you want to develop something, yeah? Because as a leader, you've got to get your new ideas across. And I think having that bit of persuasion is very good. Now, if you're watching this and you're having trouble with connecting to your team at the moment, maybe they're just not working with you as much as they want, or maybe you just don't have that development, that transparency. Well, look at the perceptive leadership, which I've just spoken to you about, and also look at that charismatic leadership skills, because there's some good ones to be able to look at. Now, I'm just going back to some of the questions which were asked on the BrightThink community. First of all, Josh asks, how do you change the culture as a leader? Okay, as a leader, battling between what you want to be as a leader and what the culture of the organization is often very hard. I had my own experience and background in this. I was once working for I was a marketing manager for a large recruitment company. I was a very transformational leader, very charismatic, perceptive. However, I was working in an environment which was a lot more transactional and autocratic. So I was always fighting against this. Now, I was never going to be able to change the whole culture of the entire organization. That would involve an entire change management program. However, I was able to evolve and develop my own team in the organization. It's really important. And if you want to research this, write this down. There's an author called Charles Handy, and he wrote this book. There's some websites about it called Gods of Management. He specifically states that every organization is split into one of these four cultures, which are role-based, task, power, and person. So there you go, four cultures. So I was like a task-based leader where we were working off projects and really connecting with each other. And that was very different to the power and role-based culture which I worked with. Now, if you have a look at this book, and again, I'm saying this because I'm answering the question at the same time, it gives you ideas on, say, if you're that task-based culture, how do you then connect back into a role-based culture, and how do you move the culture around? That's one of the biggest problems a lot of leaders have. And often as a leader or a manager, you either deal with it, try and change it, or you leave the company. Obviously, you'd like to try and change it to bring your own ideas and thoughts in. But remember, your leadership style is often going to be against what the current managers are like. I've had that throughout my entire career. I feel like I've always been trying to fight, to battle in my leadership and management skills. Don't let that be a negative thing. You know, if you're passionate about it, do it. However, at the same time, you still need to respect the values and the beliefs of what the company is trying to achieve. I hope that answers your question. Another one that came in from Milo on the community page, he asks, as a leader or a manager, should I be giving out rewards? Okay, a very interesting one. Some people say rewards work, and when we say rewards, we're defining them as monetary or a prize. I think it depends on the organization and what you're trying to achieve. If it's a sales-based culture, very good. You know, you're keeping the momentum going, especially if it's something tough environment like a call center. You know, you've got to keep that momentum going. I've worked in those industries myself. Very different to if you're working in a creative marketing agency or something like that, where You would need more intrinsic motivation. That's an interesting one. That's self-motivation. Basically, everyone should have the desire to go off and do it themselves and shouldn't rely on rewards. My own personal opinion on rewards, I don't think they always work. I think there are better ways to keep the team motivated. I think if you're really going to get good at your leadership skills, having that persuasive and charismatic leader should stop you from using rewards. I'm saying that because I've worked in sales and marketing offices as a manager as well. Rewards are good, but then the team relies on them. And often when you give the rewards out, the quality of the work being given is not great because it's versus the quantity of the work. But then I've worked in other situations where I've had to have the rewards. So you're in this really tricky situation. There's another great author, by the way, Milo, of the work of Cohn. And he always states the problem with rewards and how it's quite dehumanizing. I mean, it's interesting to read his work if you find it online. I don't agree with all of his comments. However, it's quite good. However, think back if you want to bring in more self-motivation styles. Think back more to those transcultural leaders, which I spoke to you about. Because I think if you're able to power more motivation and more intrinsic motivation into the business, then you're going to work it. You're going to power the team to be more creative without having to give the rewards away at a later stage. It's a danger zone if you rely on them too much, basically. And again, I guess that could answer the previous question from earlier on from Sandra, what's going to help me increase revenues? Again, a lot of people would say rewards. However, that development, that drive, that persuasive, that charismatic leader. Don't forget when you're embedding these different styles of leadership, it's great. And don't think that transactional and autocratic leadership is always a negative thing, because you should have a little sprinkle of that. You still need that little bit of authority on you, or people will generally walk over you. And they're literally all the main questions that we've got coming from the BrightThink community. Now, if you're wondering where I've got these questions from, they're from our BrightThink community, which is a little bit like a Facebook timeline. It's on our website, brightthink.co. Now, if you're watching this live on YouTube Live or through the BrightThink website, you will see underneath here, where you've got all the usual comments for this video, you'll see the link to the BrightThink website, and you also see a link on that which is about joining the membership free for 6 months. And we do weekly live coaches, starting off with this one where we'll be answering a lot more of your questions from the group page, and we'll be doing this on a regular basis. This fits in line with the leadership and management course, which is on the brightthink.co website right now. It's a micro course. However, every week we're going to be looking at more live elements to other parts of the course, answering your questions. So I hope you've got the most out of this short, sweet, to the point live session. And we look forward to seeing you next week. If you've got the links, join the website and we'll keep you updated when the next live sessions will be coming around. Thank you for tuning in and have a good evening. Bye.